Getting set for our second race of the weekend for the BMR Super Saloons and CMMCS TinTops series. It was an interesting first race won by Rod Birley, and a significant one for him as well, because that was the race that put him on 699 career race victories. He's looking for his 700th in this one, and he'll be doing it from pole position as well. Before we jump into this final sprint race of the weekend, though, let's hear from a few of the drivers.
Right, here we are back in the assembly area once again, and really it's getting quite dark now, isn't it? What we're going to do though is have a quick chat here with Nick Wall, because race one went quite well for you, didn't it, Nick?
Sorry?
Race one went quite well for you, didn't it?
Yeah, it was good, yeah. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. What can we expect from race two? Just more of the same, or...?
With a bit of luck, I'm going to try and finish the same, or I don't think I'm too far away from the people in front, so yeah, if I can stay here then... It
was quite tricky, race one. We had that sudden downpour just before, the red flag had to come back in, safety cars, etc, etc. Yeah. Been easier to work out what to do this time. It's just straightforward.
Yeah, well, it's never straightforward, but a lot more straightforward than the first one, hopefully. Yeah.
Best of luck, Nick. Thanks for talking to. Let's go up here, have a quick chat with got Peter Selden up here as well, number 97 in the red BMW. Who doesn't love a red BMW? I have to say, so I've just caught Peter actually putting his helmet on, I think, so just let him do that. Sorry, Peter, I've caught you right here. Good time here, haven't I?
Yeah, sorry.
Of all the times I could have spoken to you, I have to pick that time, don't I? How's it been so far today for you, Peter?
Well, it's been a little testing, because I lost the car in the first race on the exit of Graham Hill. Unfortunately, I got in the way of another lad coming past me, which is always a shame. I went up to apologise to him. His name is Ronan. I'm hoping to do better this race.
Yeah, definitely. One more opportunity.
Every time I spin, I seem to go back about 10 places, and I spend the rest of the race making them up again. So I go back to where I started, which is not brilliant.
That's Brands Hatch Indy for you, isn't it? I mean, you know, you're blinking, you've missed something, haven't you? Exactly. Best of luck. Thanks for talking to us, Peter. I appreciate it. There we go. Peter Selden there as well. We would chat, but I think it's almost time for these guys to get going. Now, I can tell you as well, we have Rod Birley coming in. Just remember, we are on Rod Birley watch. He is on 699 career wins. If he wins this race, it's 700. There you go, simple maths. Is he going to do it? Well, we're about to find out. I'm going to hand over to Andy, who's going to take you through the action.
Yeah, that's kind of the big story here, really. Not to ignore the other drivers out there who have, for example, class wins to try and chase, but Rod Birley, I mean, 700 career victories across multiple different classes of racing really would be quite the achievement, wouldn't it? And he's on the cusp of doing it now. You'd have to say, if the car doesn't give way on him, he really is odds-on favourite to take this race victory. Birley on pole position then. Steve Dan alongside him. Steve Dan in the VW Scirocco that came through nicely from 6th on the grid to finish 7th in the race earlier on today. Then it's the Clio of Nick Wall alongside the Evo 10 Mitsubishi Lancer of Nick Sutton on row 2. Martin Scott is next in his BMW. Now, Martin Scott came from the back of the grid, having not posted a particularly representative qualifying time yet in qualifying this morning. Came from the back of the grid, 21st, to finish 5th. So that Golf livery BMW should be a contender for an overall podium in this race if, again, it can hold itself together for the entire 15 minutes. Alongside him will be Peter Selden. Now, that car is indestructible because it had quite significant contact, actually, with another BMW, that of Ronan Bradley, in the early stages of the race earlier on. I was convinced it was out of the race, but he got back going again and finished 6th overall. So Peter Selden's red BMW that starts on the outside of row 3, looking to perhaps have a cleaner race this time, but hopefully challenge for a top 5. Then it's Dave Hutchins and Chris Bassett then, a pair of the front-wheel drive hatchbacks then, the Civic ahead of the Peugeot of Bassett that started on the front row in the race earlier on today. Then Neil Gardiner and Mark Cripps are next, ahead of Ken Angell's BMW and Colin Tester's Honda Civic. Vic Hope is on the 7th row alongside Gary Barlow, and then it's Mark Williams and Ian Seal together on row number 8. Row 9 is number 27 Richard Sanders and 32 Chris Birley, and then on the 10th row, number 3 Jack Whitehead and 2 Angelo Mattonetto. Then we've got the 101 of Paul Watson, who will fill that gap on the 11th row alongside Ronan Bradley and Nicholas Lunn at the back. Watson didn't set a lap time in qualifying, but we hope will be there in the 101 car starting from the penultimate row of the grid. So looking for the another exciting race here, as we tend to get from this eclectic group of cars. We're also looking for this victory for Rod Birley, which was absolutely going to be quite an achievement for Birley if he could do this. Not going to be easy to do though in these greasy, damp, slippery conditions. It's going to be a tricky set of conditions for them all to deal with, and it's really the low temperatures as much as anything else that have been catching people out over the course of certainly this afternoon and into the evening's races. Generating tyre temperature, particularly if you're a front-wheel drive car, getting those rear tyres into the ideal operating window is not easy to do, and very common it has been today to see cars sideways going into corners like Paddock Hill Bend and Graham Hill and Clearways as well. So let's hope they can all keep it on the island then. Rod Birley on pole position. Alongside him is Steve Dan's VW Scirocco. As we race into the darkness here then, one car, one of the BMWs at the back of the grid, that might be Paul Watson coming into the pit lane, but the rest of the field facing the start gantry. The lights go out now, we're away and racing. Good start made by Chris Bassett there in the Peugeot, who goes up the middle of the two cars in front of him. It's Birley that gets the lead though. To the outside line goes Nick Sutton in the Mitsubishi, challenging for second through Paddock, trying to make his way down through the dip ahead of Steve Dan's Scirocco, which he does manage to do, and then charging up the inside, that's the Clio of Nick Wall, who I think is going to go third. He's certainly going to go level third with the Scirocco as they go through Druid's corner for the first time. 2x2 up and down the pack then, down into Graham Hill Bend. Bassett's on an absolute mission, isn't he? I wonder if there was a problem with that Peugeot in race one, because he immediately looks more competitive than he did in the first race. Almost gets to the side there of Nick Wall's Clio as they head down the Cooper Straight. Burley leading the way, but the Mitsubishi also looking racier now than we saw earlier on this afternoon. Burley under some pressure now from Nick Wall, the two four-wheel drive cars at the head of the field. Bassett there side by side with Nick Wall for fourth as they head through Surtees and into Clearways again. So, Clark Curve then, it is Burley that leads, but the Mitsubishi is right there with him. Rod's going to really have a fight on his hands for this 700th race win. To Paddock they go, who's later on the brakes. The Mitsubishi perhaps a fraction later, just carries a bit more speed over the crest there, into the right-hander, avoids the curb, moves down the hill nicely, and Burley hanging on to the position by just a quarter of a second at the end of the opening lap. These two really gapping Steve Dan in third. It's still the Clio of Wall in fourth, ahead of Bassett fifth, then the 97 of Peter Selden. Not such a great start for the 45 of Martin Scott, was it? He's actually lost a couple of places on that first lap, having confidently predicted that he'd do the exact opposite of that. There's the 78 car, Ronan Pearson, that was out of the race after that contact with Peter Selden in the earlier race. Leaders though making their way through Surtees corner. Burley just hanging on, but if he doesn't get a bit of a move on here, I think that Mitsubishi is going to try and pull alongside him, because it looks like Sutton's got a good exit there from Clearways. He's a bit closer this time than he was a lap ago, and we saw that he carries good speed, doesn't he, into Paddock Hill Bend. So the top two nose to tail. And as they turn into Paddock Hill Bend, is Burley still ahead? Yes, he is. Again, only by car length or so. 12 minutes and 40 seconds still remain in the race. To the outside goes the Mitsubishi. Looked to the outside, but hasn't yet fully committed to a move, really. Mitsubishi looking a lot more competitive now than it did earlier on today. For whatever reason, setup changes maybe the wetter circuit. Well, actually, it was fully wet, wasn't it, for their first race? Of course, the race was delayed because of that heavy rain shower that fell just before it. So I think it is just a case of a different setup. They've been able to prepare better for this wet second race, because they knew it was going to be wet, whereas that shower did catch them all out a bit before the opening race of the day. Maybe got that Mitsubishi set up a little bit more in the ideal window. There's a Ken Angell battling away with the 180. That's the Renault Clio of Mark Williams, the ex-Clio Cup car, which doesn't quite get to the inside of Surtees. And the Civic Brigade just up the road, being headed by Colin Tester, who runs, for reasons I'm not entirely sure of, in a slightly different class than the other Civics. His car is a Civic Cup spec car, which may be the reason I don't think the other two are, so that's why he's in class T1, the other Civics in T2. Pearson there up ahead of the number 11 VW Golf of Mark Cripps. How's Pearson getting on? Pearson is in still deep in the field, actually. Sorry, Bradley should say 9th position for him, for the 78 car. Williams through Surtees corner. And, Nick Sutton, well, has he got anything for Birley, or is he just biding his time? Does he want to be the person that robs Birley of this milestone race victory? Sure, we won't be worried too much about this. They also run in the same class, these two, as well, so this is a fight not only for the overall victory but for the class win as well. So there is quite a bit on the line here. Birley defending the inside line. Through padded they go. Now the Mitsubishi gets close at that part of the circuit but hasn't yet been able to pull alongside. I haven't seen Sutton get alongside Birley at any point yet. Again, moves to the outside line into Druids corner, but not enough to really start forcing the issue. Into Graham Hill Bend again. Rob Birley just placing the car exactly where he needs to be. You don't have to be the fastest car on track to win the race, but he was very slow off Graham Hill Bend. The Mitsubishi almost on the grass as Nick Sutton tried to find a gap on the inside and capitalise on that. Was that a missed gear? Was it the start maybe of a mechanical gremlin for Rod Birley? Let's hope not. That would be heartbreaking if that were to cost him the chance of the victory here. It's defending nicely for now, but the Mitsubishi is looking like an ever bigger threat, isn't it? We're into the middle third of the race now. 15-minute race this, not just under 10 minutes remaining. Rod Birley's going to have to keep watching those mirrors more almost than he's looking out of the windscreen to keep the Mitsubishi at bay. Druids later on the brakes of Mitsubishi. Further back, the number 3 BMW here of Jacques Whitehead has got the Ford Fiesta right behind. I think that was Ian Seal, wasn't it? We just got past Seal actually early on in this lap. The Ford was ahead of the line, the BMW ahead now. They're both catching the 180 of Mark Williams. Through Clark curve they go once again. The 27 Ford Fiesta is Richard Sanders. He's got the Honda Integra, one of 2 Integras actually entered this weekend. That's the older spec car, the number 46 of Nicholas Lund that started at the back of the grid. Is the other Integra out there? Yes, that's the 301, isn't it, of Mark Williams. A little bit further in the order is Mark in 16th place overall. Traffic now to be negotiated for the leaders. That's the 27, I think, and around goes the Clio up at Druids corner, and that was all on his own, I'm afraid. The spin for the 180 car. Mark Williams now needs to get back in first gear and wait for a gap in the traffic because the race leaders are now arriving on the scene, and then another group of cars behind. And that was exactly what I was talking about earlier on. So easy in a front-wheel drive car to lose the rear on turn-in. You naturally get that bit of turn-in oversteer. Looked almost like he locked the rear brakes as well then as he went up the hill, which again is quite easy to do, so that will lose him probably a couple of positions because he was only half a second ahead of Jacques Whitehead's BMW. Ian Seal we saw wasn't that far back either. Birley has never had more than a car length or so in hand, has he, over Nick Sutton. Both of these drivers, by the way, have set the fastest lap of the race, and I mean that literally. They have both set identical fastest laps, 1 minute 0.960 for Birley and Sutton. That is how evenly matched they are. That is absolutely remarkable. I do suspect Sutton could go a bit quicker if he was in front. Williams, by the way, still hasn't got going, so he's either stalled the car or hasn't yet found a gap in the traffic, but he's been there now for a full lap, and this is frustrating Sutton because he's trying to get up the inside of Birley. That's the part of the circuit where he's the quickest, isn't it? On the exit of Paddock and the run up to Druids, he was almost on the grass again then on the inside line, but just had to bail out because the yellow flags were out. But if that car stays where it is, that is going to be a safety car, isn't it? And we're into the second half of the race now, so even more incentive, as if anyone needed, for Nick Sutton to get this move made, because if there is a safety car, that could rob him of much of the second half of the race, and he could otherwise have used to find the way through. Meanwhile, 4th place battle here, 2 respective class leaders here, the number 58 Renault Clio leading the Invitational class, and Class D being led by the red BMW of Tom Selden, who's running 1 position higher than he started the race. The car that really hasn't liked these full wet conditions in this race at least is Martin Scott. As quickly as he went in the wet earlier on, he's not been able to repeat that in this one. Still running down in 8th position. Selden there getting delayed a bit by the Fiesta as the Clio goes round the outside of one of the Hondas, I think that was. Leaders up to Druids, where there is still a Renault Clio on the road, so Williams really has got stuck now, and Marshall's are, I think, oh dear, this is why we need a safety car, you see, because that's Ken Angell running wide. People complain when safety cars get thrown because there's one car parked at the edge of the road, but this is why, especially in the wet. If one car could end up there, then so could another. They'll get a safety car or not, I don't know. The marshals may be confident that they can push start the car, but they're having to put themselves in harm's way to do so. So Birley then hanging on, getting his elbows out, keeping Nick Sutton at bay. But never more than 2 or 3 car lengths of difference between them. Again, Sutton closes in, headlights ablaze, lighting up the spray being kicked up by Rod Birley's Ford Escort WRC, and now the safety car is thrown. 5.5 minutes still to go into the race then. And yeah, that is the only sensible course of action, quite honestly, because that car was clearly in a dangerous position, and so too, more to the point, were the marshals that were busy recovering it. So Mark Williams out of the race, and I think stalled the car most likely as he tried to get it recovered. Sat there for a lap or so longer than I'd have liked, to be honest, before the safety car was called onto the circuit. Williams was out of the car, look, he's now trudging back towards it to assist the marshals with the recovery. If it can't be push started, then it's going to require a tow or perhaps flatbed truck to remove it, and that could take the bulk of the rest of the race, really. It's a shame, because it had been a fascinating battle between Birley and Sutton that had already been affected by that car being in the way, because I do think Druids is the best place for Sutton to try and launch a move. He's good off clearways, the Mitsubishi seems good in a straight line, and then a good run through paddock was giving him the opportunity maybe to pass into Druids, but wasn't able to use that opportunity because of the yellow flags. So almost under the cover of darkness now. Sunset was, well, about now actually, about 4:30, 4:30. So the final race of the day, of course, the Brit Car Endurance Championship race, which is coming up after this one, will take place fully in the darkness as it did yesterday, but on a damp and cold and greasy circuit, which it didn't yesterday. It was cold, yes, but the track was at least dry when the Brit Car drivers headed out for their 50-minute pit stop race. So the order then: Rod Birley leads from Nick Sutton second, Steve Dan is still third in the black VW Scirocco, the black Renault Clio then of Nick Wall is in fourth place, Tom Selden fifth, sixth place for Chris Bassett, by the way. He got Peugeot ahead of the number 78 BMW of Ronan Bradley, and then there's another BMW in 8th position, that's of Martin Scott. 9th then for Mark Cripps in the VW Golf, and then the first of the Honda Civics in 10th position, that's number 49, which is Dave Hutchins. Class leaders, Class A being led by Rod Birley, but as I've said, Nick Sutton in the Mitsubishi is also in Class A, so that's a fight for the class victory as well as the overall win. Third position is where you find the Class B leader, Steve Dan. The Invitational class is a class of 1, so obviously Nick Wall is controlling that nicely in fourth place overall. And then Class, what's the other one I haven't mentioned, Class C, being led by number 45 still, Martin Scott, but the number 11 of Cripps, Mark Cripps, is going to close right in on him now in second place. And then within the TinTops portion of the race, T2 being led by Chris Bassett in that number 33 Peugeot that just claimed 6th position, and T1 being led by Colin Tester in the blue number 80 Honda Civic. That's good news. The Clio is attached to the recovery vehicle, being towed out of the way, and if they can get that to the back entrance of the paddock, the inner paddock that is, pretty quickly, then we should be able to go racing next time. There are 2 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock, so where is the safety car? It's in the second sector, isn't it? So it's going to need a whole other lap. A safety car lap has been in the region of 1 minute 20 seconds or so. So yeah, we're going to have one lap, aren't we? They've just gone on to what should be the penultimate lap, unless the safety car can really pick up the pace, which it could do now because the track is clear, and that might allow us to get 2 laps in, but in all likelihood it will be 1 lap of racing. So Birley will only have to defend for 1 more lap, so a good restart for Rod would probably be enough to give him this victory. So Birley, Sutton, Dan the top 3. Are we going to see a late change of the lead, or can Rod Birley bring this home for that 700th race victory? Nick Sutton will have something to say about that, I am sure. I think, yeah, it is definitely going to be just the 1 lap of racing, because even under green flag conditions, the fastest lap is a 1:0. We have got 1 minute and 4 seconds left now. The lights are out on the BMW safety car though, so 1 lap dash for the cash. Not that there's any cash available, I don't think, for winning the race, but a dash for the trophy, and an all-important victory for Rod Birley. He goes early this time. Nick Sutton tried to go with him. That's a good restart, that, from Sutton, isn't it? He's going to carry the speed off clearways, and he is going to be close to Birley. Steve Dan just went off, did he? In the was that the 3rd place Scirocco going off? There was certainly a car in the gravel, side by side for the lead. Oh no, you can't do that, you can't do that. Nick Sutton has passed Rod Birley before the line. You cannot overtake before the line out the safety car restart, so Nick Sutton's blown it. That is such a shame. He's ahead, but I'm absolutely certain that he will not be allowed to retain the race lead then. Nick Sutton in front. If he was being really clever here, he'd give that position back and then try and spend the second half of the lap passing Rod Birley. I don't think Birley's got a problem. He just didn't really accelerate as quickly as Sutton expected him to. Sutton will therefore try and claim that Birley went and then slowed again, but oh dear. So Nick Sutton is going to win this one, I think, on the road, but whether that stands, we probably won't know until sometime after the race. Through Surtees, up towards Clearways goes the Mitsubishi, and Nick Sutton is going to come through. It wasn't, I don't think it was Dan that went off. I think it was a back marking car. So Steve Dan is still there in 3rd place. The race on the road, though, in a bizarre way, is going to be won by Nick Sutton, and Rod Birley will come home in 2nd place. But that position changed hands before the start-finish line after the safety car restart. So Birley may yet end up inheriting the win. The fastest lap goes to Nick Sutton, and that would be a bit of a shame, actually, if Birley were to claim that 700th win in those circumstances, but we'll await further news on that. I'll try and update you of that later on into the evening as and when we get the official results through. But Sutton wins on the road, Birley 2nd, Steve Dan in 3rd, 4th place goes to Nick Wall, with Chris Bassett 5th in the end, and Bradley in 6th. So the car that we haven't seen come through, in fact now it comes through, is the 301 of Gary Barlow. But Barlow had a really slow final lap and lost a number of positions, but he's not the car in the gravel. The car in the gravel is the number 3 BMW of Jacques Whitehead. He's the only one then that hasn't seen the checkered flag, so he will join the list of retirements, which also includes the 180 of Mark Williams that brought out the safety car, and the 101 of Paul Watson. So I'd love to tell you that I knew who won that race. I suspect it will be Rod Birley, but on the road it is Nick Sutton that gets there first, by a considerable margin as well. Maybe Birley did have a problem then, because his last lap was quite a slow one, and he ends up losing that race by 3.6 seconds on the road to Nick Sutton, and Sutton therefore provisionally takes the Class A victory as well. Dan in 3rd there is a class winner as well in Class B, so too is Nick Wall in 4th, winning the Invitational class, and number 5 Bassett in 5th position, wins in Class T2. The other class winners then, Tom Selden there in 7th place, wins in Class D, and I think the only other one was Colin Tester, wasn't it? Yeah, Colin Tester winning in Class T1. So suitably dramatic and confusing race there then. The win goes to Nick Sutton by 3.6 seconds over Rod Birley. Whether he gets to keep the win is another matter, but Nick Sutton is going to be the one that gets there unofficially as the race winner. The good news is we've got someone else that can go and ask the hard questions. I don't have to ask them in Waterhouses down there to have a chat with Nick Sutton and Rod Birley and find out who they think won.
Right, here we are down in Park Firm. As you can see, Nick Sutton's Evo is still revving, isn't it? It's still going really, really quite loud. Let's go have a chat with him. Nick, over the line in first. Will it count? No, that's the question.
Why wouldn't it count?
Well, we're just looking into whether you passed Rod before the safety car line. That's all.
Right, okay. I wouldn't know. I just waited for him to go, and I saw the line. The safety car was in, and I thought I can't hang about. I just got to go for it. Yeah, I mean, it might be if so It's not a problem. I'll take it. It's all good.
So you've had the pace, haven't you? You've had more race. You're having a great battle. You really are.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care that much about winning or losing. It's just taking part and being with these guys is brilliant.
Fantastic. So, well done. Whatever happens,
thank you.
You're a winner in our eyes anyway. Let's go find Rod anyway, and let's go stand over here because this is making some noise, isn't it, Rod? Let's head over to you. Obviously, we're just working out if there might be a bit of controversy here. You might be getting the place back. We're just trying to work out whether, of course, Nick did pass you before the safety car line, which obviously you're not supposed to do.
No, that's right. And when I saw him go, I thought, well, there's no point in going, risking anything because it was clearly before the line, and we were told at the briefing. We had a face-to-face briefing with the clerk this morning, and he was very explicit about it. Yeah. And I just thought, wow, you're keen. And it was a long way before the start line. It wasn't as if we were. He obviously went for it, but up until then, I think it was a good race.
It was a great race. In fact, he wouldn't let you go, would he?
No.
You were very evenly matched, and actually, it looked a little bit like he might have got you anyway, but you never know.
Yeah, it was. He had to go up at Druids when the double waved yellows were out, which was a little bit ambitious. The car wasn't running as well. My car wasn't running as well. We had a bit of a misfire. I don't know if you heard it coming out the corners, but it was a good race. I enjoyed it. Just a bit.
Well, it might be 700 then. Probably not quite how you wanted it to be, but we'll obviously get this settled in the room and find out officially, won't we?
Yeah, and it was a great race up until then, and I thought this is going to be a great race to win. I was really looking forward to it. I thought this is going to be a fantastic race to win because it's been close all the way and it's not been gifted to me. So I was really up for it. It was a good way to finish the season. Just a bit, with the ending there, it was a bit,
Well, don't be too downhearted. We never know. We never know.
No, look, it was a great day. We've had good fun. The car's in one piece, and we live to fight another day. And it was great fun whilst it lasted. Yeah.
Whatever happens, well done.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Right, it is now time. We've almost got it's night time now, isn't it? It's almost time for the brick car into the night race. So I'm going to hand back to Andy to tell you what's coming up next.